Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Goldovsky. I'm the CEO of ProTitle USA. Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk about title reports. I hope you're not going to get bored. This is a must-have tool in your toolbox to acquire notes. This is a distressed note conference, and I am presenting here out of a hotel room in Connecticut, so forgive the background. But hopefully you will learn something. I will talk about things that you do need to know, and then we'll get into some of the nuts and bolts of the title report. I'll cover some of the interesting topics, such as market conditions, especially now during the pandemic. And I can tell you that we have all kinds of portfolios and title reports coming through our desk. We're on diligence on portfolios anywhere from 20,000 loans to one loan. So we've seen it all. We operate in all 50 states, including Puerto Rico, Guam, and Virgin Islands. So I will try to address all your questions in the chat after I finish my official part of the discussion. And hopefully I will get you scared, confused, and that's my goal exactly. So let's get started with the market first. Hopefully you got some coffee and you can process this as I explain. So when you talk about distressed notes, I'm sure you already heard it from a number of people. You have a number of niche markets within distressed note segment. The first market is the first lien single family resident market. And within that market, specifically, you have sub-markets, right? You have the performing lien market, which is something that this conference is not focused on. Those loans are performing. They're with servicers. The borrower is paying the mortgage on time, and there are no particular issues with those mortgages. They typically trade at the par, and there's no discount for them. There was a little market created by pandemic called non-QM hard money and fix and flip loans that all of a sudden got on the books of the originators because Fannie and Freddie decided not to take those loans anymore. And those loans became a hot commodity for some of the larger funds that would buy them at 90 to 95% discount. Next would be a group that you would be most interested in for this discussion is non-performing loans, right? So one thing that you do want to know that there were scarce products on the market since the forbearance started in the beginning of March. Forbearance means the borrowers have the right to call the servicer and say that because of COVID, they are unable to pay the mortgage, and therefore the payments to the mortgages is now distributed across the life cycle, the remaining life cycle of the mortgage. That was really a big wave of forbearance agreements or forbearance modifications for the borrowers, whether or not they were paying or not paying the mortgage, right? So all of a sudden, all the borrowers received a way to live in the house at no cost without paying to the lender. Unfortunately, at the time of when COVID hit, about 2 to 3% were delinquent of total mortgages in the U.S. And those 2 to 3% all of a sudden received a free ticket to stay in the house. The lender or servicer would love, or the investor would love to remove those people from their homes because they didn't pay prior to COVID, but unfortunately federal law put them in a pretty poor position to allow the borrower to stay in the house up through 12/31 of this year. And I think election will play a big part in what happens after that point. But if the foreclosure moratorium is not moved, or it's not extended, you will see a huge wave of foreclosure filings after the end of the year. In fact, some of the foreclosures are still going through right now. Those loans are non-borrower occupied, right? So commercial properties, reverse mortgages with a deceased owner, some of the vacant properties. So those foreclosures are still moving along. But if the borrower occupies the property, and they mentioned the magic word COVID-19 forbearance, they get to stay in the property up through 12/31. So in that market, we really saw a huge up and down, right, of the market. In the first few months, March and April and May, there were very little products out there, right, because people couldn't value the NPLs. And they couldn't understand what's happening. What is the right discount on the non-performing loan for the loans that borrower never paid and ask for forbearance, right? But now it looks like the market is back, right? You had a Freddie Mac sale of about 2,800 assets or so. The auction happened just in the prior 2 weeks. You had the Fannie Mae sale of performing loans, which was about 16,000 assets. You have a lot of funds that were sitting on those loans that were looking for the market to find its price, such as Goldman Sachs, Bayview, or Palisades. Those type of funds started to sell to the secondary market. So the market is now back to be active, and certainly it's still liquid. There's quite a bit of spread in the market, but I can tell you that the deals are now happening, and you can find the deals anywhere from a few 100,000 up to 100 million, right? So that's the pretty hot market now, and my view is in Q1, when the foreclosure moratorium should be lifted, you will see a huge uptick in sales and market activity. So HUD is selling the loans, but they're only selling vacant property loans on the reverse mortgages, right? So when the borrowers die, and I'll touch on that market a little bit, the loan needs to be foreclosed for the lender to become an owner of that property. Then you have RPL loans. RPL is really a reperforming loans where a borrower started to pay from being non-performing loan, right? So either through the modification or through the agreement with the lender, or catching up on their payments, or through bankruptcy, right? So those loans are trading much higher. And then many funds, the strategy for many funds that deal with NPLs is to get the borrower to perform. I'm sure you heard that in the prior sessions, and get that loan to RPL status with the 6 consecutive months of borrower payments to have a much higher premium to be collected on that loan if the loan is to be sold. Then there's a market for contract for deeds, right? So it's very niche market. In essence, you are the owner of the property, and you sign the contract for deed with the rentor of that property. And if the rentor completes all the payments, the owner of the property signs the quitclaim deed into the ownership of the rentor. So those are very popular in a number of states, including Texas and some other states. CFPB is starting to look at that market because it was completely unmanaged, or government really didn't pay attention to that market. And I think last year I heard that CFPB was started to take a closer look to that market from the perspective of all the legal aspects and foreclosure aspects on the contract for deeds. And then you have bankruptcy loans. It's a really niche market when the loan is in bankruptcy, and a number of funds are choosing to play that market because the borrower files for bankruptcy, right? They cannot afford to pay all the liens, including credit card debt, second liens, first liens, and they're already at the table with you to negotiate, and the judge is helping to facilitate the plan on the bankruptcy, how much borrower can afford to pay for the first lien. And typically first liens are never wiped off from the bankruptcy. Then you have a separate market, which is a second lien market, where you really don't control your own destiny there. You also have the RPL market, where the borrower started to repay the second liens, performing market, of course, NPLs, where the borrower typically stopped paying first and second liens, and then unsecured market, where the second lien is removed by foreclosure. There's a lot of funds that are accumulating a lot of unsecured seconds to see if they can somehow recover excess proceeds from first lien foreclosure or bankruptcy. They can recover those liens because of some of the title defects and so on. So it's a very unique market. We are the only title company on the market today that offers a waterfall approach on diligence, pre-bid and post-bid, to verify what exactly is going on with the second lien. Then, as I mentioned, there's a reverse mortgage market, very unique, but it looks to be very attractive for a lot of funds to go and buy the properties from hot sales. And there's a commercial market, which is really starting to peak. We saw a lot of funds putting a lot of dry powder on the side, trying to acquire some of the distressed commercial assets, especially with the moves from New York, from San Francisco, from Los Angeles and some of the bigger cities to the suburbs, leaving some of the commercial properties vacant. Malls are going bankrupt, and there's some funds eyeing those opportunities to see if they can repurpose those properties from retail to senior housing or condos. So this is the market, and again, we play in all markets that I mentioned here. We specialize in those markets, and as I mentioned before, we run diligence for some of the larger players on the market, including some of the GSEs, FDIC, and so on. Everybody on the capital markets knows our name, and we get entrenched in running diligence for some of the most recent purchases of Fannie and Freddie as well. So first, before we dive into actual title reports, let me cover some of the basics, right? This is a basics room. What things can hurt you as the note buyer with respect to the acquisition of the note, right? So if somebody sells you note, how do you run the diligence, right? So what we provide is title reports or title search, which is listed here as number one, which will give you very, very important points, such as lien report, and not just liens, any type of liens, but liens that would survive the foreclosure. In other words, if you bought an NPL note, non-performing lien, and you plan to foreclose on a lien, if there are liens that supersede you in priority, such as municipal liens, water and sewer liens, taxes, right, unpaid taxes, HOA liens in some states, and title defects or things that make the mortgage unenforceable, breaks in the chain of assignments. So those type of things we discovered in the title report. And again, if you see me, I'll probably after the presentation point the finger to the book right behind me. That's something that I did write. It's a great explanation on the basics of what things to watch out for in the due diligence process on the title report, as a lot of the beginning investors would come to me and ask me to explain, and I would get the requests every day. And I said, well, it probably makes sense for me to go and write the book to make sure that I can point to the book and I don't have to really explain some of the basics with the title report and liens, what attaches, what doesn't attach. Certainly that can be used for you to get educated. So title search will give you the actual cost basis of acquisition, right? So it'll give you all the liens and judgments and taxes and mortgages, municipal liens that you have to worry about, and you have to turn around and ask for a discount on the acquisition price from the seller. Typically in the first lien scenario, you will have a few weeks diligence cycle where you would start a title search, get the results back, analyze the title search, talk to the seller and say, hey, listen, there's a HOA lien or HOA foreclosure, or there's delinquent taxes for $10,000. You have to really choke up the discounts on my notes, because if I don't pay it right away after I acquire the note, I might lose it. And certainly those cases happen, and you have to be very careful. Second thing that you need to do is you need to do a title review. What does that mean? So once you get a title search, you will, and I apologize for the noise, I'm in a hotel room. You will have a title report with all the pages of all the mortgages, liens, and judgments. And you need to really go through those pages to understand if there are anything that you have to worry about. So, for example, let me talk about one thing that you have to have on your checklist on your diligence is enforceability of the mortgage. What does that mean? It means that when you acquire the mortgage, you want to make sure that you are in the first lien position to go and foreclose on the property. There's no other senior liens that can supersede you in the position. For example, prior liens, right? So if there's prior liens ahead of your lien, and there's no subordination agreement filed to subordinate the position between two liens, the prior lien can foreclose on you. Or if there's a tax lien, that can go to tax sale, and tax sale wipes off all liens, including your mortgage. Or if there's HOA lien in Nevada, that can also wipe out the mortgage. You need to know some liens that would survive the foreclosure, and you need to verify that the assignment chain for the assignments from your subject mortgage to your seller is intact and there's no breaks. You want to make sure that there's no statute of limitation enforced in some of the foreclosure timelines. As an example, in New York, it's now a very popular check that the funds would need to do to make sure that if the foreclosure started, the prior foreclosure started on a subject mortgage, and the debt is accelerated by filing the lis pendens and notifying the borrower that they have 30 days to cure the debt, the lender or the investor has 6 years to foreclose. And if they don't foreclose in the period of 6 years, that's your statute of limitation on foreclosure. They have to decelerate the debt, reinstate the mortgage, decelerate the debt. If the debt is not decelerated within 6 years, then the lender or the investor loses the right to enforce the mortgage. Very, very important time frame, and this is very popular this year. As an example, in Texas, the statute of limitation is 4 years. So once you start the foreclosure, you have 4 years to end the foreclosure, to foreclose on the property, or decelerate the debt, reinstate the mortgage. Hope that makes sense. So, in essence, enforceability involves call it a legal review or a title review, which we can also do, for all the factors that can impact your mortgage as enforceable instrument. Okay, collateral review, very, very important. Now, you have to make sure that your seller gives you a collateral package to review when you acquire the mortgage, right? So once you start your BPO, we'll touch on that, title search, then you have to start your collateral review, 3 separate workflows. And collateral review will really accomplish the following. You will have to review the pay history. You will have to review the note, make sure that the note itself is there. You will be in possession of the note when you acquire the property. And the note is for the same amount. The note is insured by a company that is still in business, right? Very important. So the underwriter, a few underwriters went under, and having a title policy insured by that underwriter doesn't help you, right? Then you have to review the servicing notes to see if there's anything fishy. You can review HUD statement. So HUD-1 statement will give you an opportunity to see if you see a prior lien reported on title search, but you see also without the release, right, without the release of that prior mortgage, but you see that that mortgage was paid off on the HUD settlement statements, and therefore you can assume that probably the title shows the mortgage that's paid off, and the only thing that's missing is a curative action to go and release that mortgage. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that mortgage trying to foreclose on me because that mortgage was paid off through HUD, and for some reason the release was never filed. Also, the title policy, right? You have to review the title policy to verify what exception it has, right? Does it have exceptions for that prior mortgages? Or does it have exception for something that's is not on title or is on title? So the review of title policy will really help you to guarantee that your mortgage is enforceable and there's nothing you need to worry about. Property valuation, BPOs and AVMs, right? So broker price opinion and automated valuation model opinions on the value of the property. So those are not covered by our company, but we can certainly recommend a few vendors out there. There's probably 20 vendors. We recommend a few of them to you if you choose to ask for our reference. And then there's number 5, search, that you need to be aware about. And some of the beginner investors, they forget about that type of search. It's called unrecorded municipal liens, right? So I'll give you an example. So some of the townships monitor your water and sewer, and if you don't pay water and sewer, they keep the ledger and balance of unpaid water and sewer balance, and it's lienable against the property in some states. Notice I said balance, not lien, right? Lien is something that's recorded at the county office. Balance is something that's on a ledger in a township, being accruing to some number that will stick to the property, right? So for you, as you buy a note, as a part of due diligence, we offer that service, or you can do it yourself. Call the township and find out what is being owed to the township for this property for water and sewer. Are there any code enforcement liens, orders that the borrower has to comply with? Demolition orders, if the property is scheduled for demolition. Are there any outstanding permits, open permits on the property? Vacant property registration. Are there any fees in the vacant property registration department? For example, if you start a foreclosure on the property and the property is vacant, you have to register the property as a vacant property. If you don't, there could be fees accruing every year. Now, as an example to permit violations and code enforcement liens, I'll give you a very odd case where our client bought a note on a property. It's a very, very expensive note, but the municipality put a order for the borrower to comply. Otherwise, the borrower will be paying $100,000 to connect their private water line, which had some, the water quality was not as good, and connected to the public water line within a year. And if they don't comply, the township or the county will have to do all this work, and they provided an estimate of about $100,000 to connect that water line. Now, it's not a lien. The borrower has a year to do it. It's not a violation because it's an agreement between the borrower and the county or township. So it's very important to understand the open permits or orders to comply are understood from the perspective of you as a buyer of the note. If you buy this note and you foreclose on the property, you would be responsible for connecting that water line. Hopefully that makes sense. And for you as a beginning investor or beginner investor, you really have to understand those 5 steps, 5 checks, and how do you consolidate all that in a single reporting structure, right? So my company only responsible for number 1, number 2, number 5, and we can do number 3 as well on case-by-case basis. Number 4 is something that is commoditized, and it's a commodity product. You can probably get it from many companies, and I'm sure that in this conference, a few of them are presenting their material as well. Now, so this is just a recap of what what I mentioned. You you start the O&E reports, owners and encumbrances report, same as current owner search, same as title search, prelim search. All of those names mean one thing, right? O&E report or title search. Typically, those take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours. For rural counties, allow a couple of more days to complete those searches. You can, if you're buying a single note, you can do the township search yourself. Call the township of the property and try to go from department to department to department, asking the right questions. Are there any permit violations? Are there any municipal liens? Is the water and sewer balance zero? So try to run those those questions yourself, and you'll get a feel and appreciation how much time it takes you as the investor for one property to do those searches yourself. We have a call center that is trained to do it. Then you need a bankruptcy search, a bankruptcy scrub. So if the seller reports to you that the loan is in bankruptcy, or the servicer notes under review, you discover that there's a bankruptcy case, you want to start a bankruptcy search, we have a bankruptcy attorney that can do that for you or for us. And then you consolidate everything into a single reporting structure. You're ready to come back with all your discount requests and title issues and all kinds of collateral requests to the seller. And you're ready to start seller negotiation, as I show with the money bag right there on the bottom of the slide. So some of the things that you need to know as well. So rebuttal and lien validation. So let's touch on that a little bit. Once you become a seller, right, the buyer will be now taking your place, and they will do their own diligence. Let's say you flip a loan to somebody who wants to own it. The buyer will come back with all of those items that I just mentioned, lien discounts, taxes discounts, collateral requests, a side letter to go and fix the breaks in the assignment chain, missing notes, missing title policies. So all of those requests will come in, and as a seller, I'll just flash in front of you, you'll have to run a rebuttal. So you really want to defend yourself from false requests, and we do help a number of funds in that regard. We do run lien review for all their requests. We run verification of releases. Maybe they will falsely request a discount for a lien that was already released. We'll do the statute of limitation review for all the liens, and so on. So just to give you a quick example, we ran the rebuttal service for one of the funds that was selling 1,900 first liens, RPLs. RPLs means the borrower is paying everything, including the mortgage. The discount request was for $500,000, and after our rebuttal service, we got it down to 186. Huge discount rebuttal, and both parties agreed, and the sale happened. There was a settlement between buyer and the seller. But again, this market is based on both parties agreeing on what's outstanding, what it takes to buy the asset, and of course the discount requests and rebuttal coming back. So this is some of our products that we did talk about. That's what we offer. I'll just touch the top portion on the product. So tax and title reporting, right? So that's what we do. We have the unique spreadsheet, which I don't think I'll have time to show you today, but it's really a comprehensive analysis of all the title data for the whole portfolio. If you're buying 10 assets, 20 assets, ask our staff to also provide you with a dashboard which shows you analytics of lien position, sorting of the liens that survive the foreclosure, all the title defects, assignment breaks, prior liens, total discount requests to go back to the seller. So we'll do all that for you if you're a volume buyer of the notes. And we grade the assets. We assign the risk factor and the grade to each asset, and you can really rely on our services. If we say the asset is an A grade, it means no issues find whatsoever, and you only focus on the assets that are lower grades. Then you have a township service that we offer, which integrates within the same dashboard. So it's a single interface, single spreadsheets. We're on the title review and title underwriting. We also offer our reporting through the API. We have an open API where we have integration with all the compliance vendors. And compliance is a completely separate topic where I'm not going to talk about, but you should be aware of. And then we have a bankruptcy review and the data coming from the bankruptcy into the consolidated dashboard that we offer. We're really high tech, so we offer a lot of OCR and data extraction, document data extraction. So if somebody will give us, 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 forbearance agreements or modification agreements, we can load in our system and we can extract the data through the machine learning. We have title insurance options where we're integrated with a number of title insurance providers nationwide. And I already talked about rebuttal services, complete products for second liens with a unique approach, custom waterfalls for servicers, and so on. So that's my slides, and let me now stop sharing, and I'll come back to start answering any of your questions. So again, there's a book that I wrote, Bulletproof Title Due Diligence Protecting Your Investments. It's used for a training manual for some of the trade desks that, there you go, trade desks that start reviewing the title reports. In a few funds, it's mandatory reading. So I encourage you to read it. I'll probably write the second book soon, and I'll probably announce it to Nick and the whole conference community as well. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to respond, and hopefully you found this session useful. Now, I'll spend 10 more minutes before you log off on how to read the title reports, right? That's why we are here. And I prepared one title report, which I can tell you is really convoluted and will probably scare you. But let me have it displayed in front of you right now. And I'll slowly go through how to read the title reports, right? So this is a title report that we did for one of the funds. They were buying a mortgage for $75,000. The mortgage was originated in 2008. And this is a really tough file. The property is in Maine, okay? Knox County, Maine. We did that report in 2018. City of Rockland, which is the city of the property, is listed as an owner. We started digging and trying to find out, well, what happened with this mortgage? Well, let me just get to the portion of where the mortgages are. Typically, this is how we report a mortgage, right? You have a borrower, you have a lender, MERS as nominee for Bank United. The mortgage was signed and recorded in those dates, and there's a reference in the county that you can go and find the mortgage for this amount that the client was buying. And there was an assignment of mortgage, which is it was sold from MERS to Federal National Mortgage Association. Okay, so far so good. The mortgage is there, it's open. However, after the mortgage was originated in 2008, there were 2 liens recorded, and this is an active judgment and lien section against the property by Treasurer of Rockland City, Maine. And it was a certificate of lien secure payments for unpaid sewer balance. And if you know the rules and civil procedures in Maine, sewer lien and water lien sticks to the property. It's collected by the township. So it was for a pretty small amount, right? $400 and $263. So far, so good. So there are 2 liens, and you would think, okay, if I buy this mortgage, I would have to pay those off to the township, and my mortgage will now be free and clear on those 2 liens. Now, the taxes are exempt. Okay, exempt means there's nothing due on taxes, but the reason is because it's city-owned. City doesn't pay the taxes to itself. So you'll ask a question, something is wrong here, right? I would expect the taxes to be either delinquent or, the borrower is paying the taxes or lender is paying the taxes. And now we go to the very interesting part. And by the way, this is the chain of title, which shows how the property transferred ownership from owner to owner. And then there was a probate where somebody died in the chain of title. But in any case, Pamela and Scott owned the property as joint tenants and not as tenants in common through the deed recorded in 2008, right? They're grantee or deed owner. So that's how you read the deed chain. And they are the borrower on a mortgage. So now we get to this interesting document. And this document basically states that if those sewer liens are not paid within a certain statute defined by redemption period of the township, they're no longer redeemable, and the city becomes an owner. In essence, foreclosing on the property. And your mortgage all of a sudden lost the right to foreclose, right to enforce the mortgage, right? Very odd case. It's 1 in a million. But if you buy this mortgage, it'll really hurt you because you cannot enforce it. Pardon my French, it's the toilet paper. So the very dangerous sewer and water liens by the townships can foreclose on the property. And we saw the same thing in Maryland, right? In Maryland, water and sewer lien can foreclose on the property. Utility lien can foreclose on the property, wiping out the mortgage. Okay, so you have to be very, very careful of everything that we report. So if I am the investor and I look at this report, I would tell, well, Mr. Seller, we're dropping this loan from sale because I think my mortgage is not enforceable. And you cannot put any wraps and warrants around the mortgage because you can't even foreclose on the property, or the mortgage is no longer attached to the property. And that loan is typically dropped from the sale, which it was. Okay, it's a very bizarre case, but those cases do exist. I see more cases in Florida on HOA foreclosure. Fortunately, first lien is not being wiped off by HOA foreclosure in Florida, and you can foreclose over HOA, and you have to pay a year worth of HOA dues. We saw HOA foreclosure in Nevada, wiping off the mortgage. We saw selective HOAs wiping off the mortgage in Texas, right? You have to pay attention to declaration and CCNRs for each HOA, and those things will tell you if you have a power to foreclose. Okay, so let me stop sharing. All right, now let me give you a minute or so to ask me any questions about title reports, our products, anything you would like to know about the note market. All right, so I did click here. All right, Veronica Grace, will there be a replay? I think they are planning to post a video. How much does it cost for the first lien and second lien? Question from Sheila. So for the first lien, on average, the title report is about $85 flat. If you're running more than 20 reports at the time, you'll get the dashboard at no cost, the one that I was referring to. Second lien. So second lien is cheaper. So pre-bid second lien products are dollar search, we call it. It's $1 per asset with a 90% accuracy. We have an automation that we developed to give you a current ownership and our opinion through the automation, right? That's why it's not 100% accurate if the same borrower owns the property, right? So giving you an opportunity to know if the loan is secured or unsecured, and it's $1, right? Then there's a $3 product, which is also full automation. We examine the chain of title for those properties that we can access. through our automation. And if there's a tax deeds, first lien foreclosures, then we can tell you with higher chance accuracy if the property is lost. Sorry, if the mortgage is lost, second mortgage is lost to the first lien foreclosure or tax sale and so on. So then we have two other products, Bankruptcy Search. Typically we charge in the ballpark of $18. And then the actual in-person, in-county search is $45 for a few liens, and then we get to discounts once you start buying hundreds and thousands of second lien products. All right, next question. Sri, do you have products to find out any water and sewer liens and delinquent tax liens? So delinquent taxes are included in our standard O&E report. However, you're not going to get the information about tax sale. Let's say that we give you an information that the property has 3 years worth of delinquent taxes, right? What we're not telling you is the tax sale scheduled, right? If it is scheduled, then there's a separate service that we offer. We offer a $35 plus copy service on the discounts. I think it includes water and sewer balance, right? That to answer your question. Verification if the tax sale is scheduled, demolition search, code enforcement, and permit violations. Typically, that service is offered as the add-on service to the O&E report. If it's standalone, it's $50. Okay, next is Shanita. Okay. Is financing available for this type of investment? The answer is yes. There's some hard money lenders and also some funds that offer financing of those transactions. So if you'd like, email me at alex@ProTitleUSA.com, and I will put you in touch with a few firms that I know of. Let's see, Gigi, we're unable to see it in case you're sharing at the moment. Okay. Okay, well, if you didn't see my slides, I will ask Nick to distribute it. So please, and I apologize. Okay, that was not very good. I just noticed that we didn't share the slides. So it was shared on my screen. Let's see, would there be a surplus after the sewer foreclosure? The answer is yes. There will be a surplus because typically sewer liens are a bit higher. Let's see, I thought that mortgage company would pay the liens to protect their position. The answer is yes when the mortgages are originated, and their answer is not necessarily, Ari. The mortgage company is interested to protect the investment, but they don't have to, right? In other words, let's say that you own the NPL loan, and you know that the taxes can go delinquent in California for 7 years. So you might sit on delinquent taxes for 6 years and not pay it, right? So the point is the funds allow some of the delinquent water and sewer liens to accrue, and the next transaction that happens either through the foreclosure or resale of the mortgage, then those liens will be paid off. Okay. Let's see which Bill. Great to see you here in the chats. Let's see. I will be asking Nick to share the title report. So see Nick to get the copy of the title report. It's a very educational one. Which places do we cover nationwide? Puerto Rico, Guam, and Virgin Islands. So all places. All right. Okay, so you guys saw the slides. Hallelujah. Let's see. Okay, thank you. I was starting to worry. Let's see. It was just the title report. Okay, so the title report I will send to Nick, and hopefully you can contact him and he'll distribute the title report in the email. Let's see, Dan, your follow-up question. If there's a surplus after the sewer foreclosure, wouldn't the note holder just get paid then that's a safe investment. Oh, okay, so sewer lien is for $400. You notice for $100,000, the highest bid is $2,000, right? So you're not safe. You're not safe to count for surplus. Plus, surplus plus, you have to request the township these surplus funds. There's a process that exists. You have to hire an attorney, and they have to file an application for you, or you can do it on your own. I know it's very popular for the second liens. Okay. All right. There you go. Okay. Again, thanks, everybody. It was, I apologize if something didn't come through. That's the first time I'm using this interface. Usually I'm on Zoom. Well, hopefully your investment will be successful, and I want to wish you good luck. Thanks, everybody, and goodbye.